Wiki Games, Wiki Games, Wiki Games. You know when you play a game that's extremely open-ended or extremely densely packed full of content? It's got countless numbers of items, areas, bosses, characters, abilities, and you get flung into a world that doesn't explain itself to you, and you have to figure out what to do to succeed. So the first thing you do when you come across something you haven't seen before is Google what the hell you're looking at and hope that there's some comprehensive fandom wiki page for your game of choice. This is what I like to call a wiki game. And I love wiki games. Some of my favourite games of all time are wiki games because I think there's something special about the way in which a wiki game has to present itself to you. By definition, a wiki game has to be extremely light on formal tutorials. It's extremely rare for a text box to appear on your screen that says, press X to do the thing in a wiki game, because if that happened for every new character, area or item in the game, there would be enough tutorial dialogue to write a small novel with, and that's not what the player wants. Now, a wiki game isn't really a genre of game, it's more of a classification, because lots of genres of game can be a wiki game. Roguelikes and Metroidvanias tend to be the most intense types of wiki games, but you can have adventure games and RPG games that end up being wiki games too, because it's not really about the type of gameplay that the game fosters, but it's about how it presents information to the player. I've been playing a lot of Hollow Knight recently, and this game is very much a wiki game, and it's a bloody good wiki game at that. Like, did you know if you go over to this little podium and use your Howlin' Wraith spell, it'll upgrade your spell to the Abyss Shriek? Because I didn't until I watched a clip of someone fighting Nightmare King Grim and was like, wait a minute, why is his black when mine's white in the game? Oh, okay, thank you, good. Did you know that if you go to Godhome, then go to the Hall of Gods, and you do this one fairly precise jump, you can get up here, and there's a statue of Zope, and there's a little Zope minigame in here? Did you know that Godhome exists at all? Because I didn't. Now, it might sound like I'm criticising Hollow Knight for being too hard to decipher or having things be too well hidden or something, but that's not the case at all. I love wiki games, because I love it when a game makes me find stuff for myself. I'm showing you some of the examples of where I googled the solution to a problem I came across, but I played about 90% of Hollow Knight without using Google a single time, and it was an incredible experience. Discovering all the new areas is so much fun. Every time I found a simple key, I got giddy at what I was going to go use it to open and what might be inside. A lot of games nowadays, especially AAA titles and especially RPG games, end up giving the player too much information. They hold your hand so much because they're worried that they're going to alienate too many players by making them figure things out for themselves. And it's such a breath of fresh air to have a game make you find these things out for yourself, rather than just popping a dialogue box up on the screen every time it needs to tell you something. My personal favourite wiki game is Rain World. This game in general is such a hidden gem, nobody really played it, but it's one of my favourite games of all time. And this game is the king of all wiki games. This game doesn't tell you shit, it makes you figure it out for yourself. Different enemy types all interact with each other in different ways and all have different hunting strategies. Just the variation in the different colours of lizard is extremely deep. Let alone when you introduce all the other enemies to it. Making a player learn all of that for themselves is a great way to immerse them in the game. In fact, this game's so harsh on not giving you information that it literally doesn't tell you some of the controls. In Rain World, your character can hold 2 objects, one in each hand, and you can throw held objects. What the game doesn't tell you, though, is that you always throw the object in your left hand first, and if you double tap the pick up item button, your character swaps hands so that your right hand item becomes your left hand item. There's even Steam threads about people getting upset about the throwing system because they don't understand it, because the game doesn't explain it to them. You can also do this little flip and this little belly slide, and the game doesn't tell you about any of that either. And I love this style of gameplay. It's incredible. I know it's a cliche to say it, but it really does put you in the character's shoes when you do things like this. Telling the player that your character is small and frail and knows nothing about the world doesn't really work when a dialogue box pops up every 3 seconds explaining the world to you. You should make your player feel those things instead. Make them figure out the enemy's attack patterns and hunting strategies by watching them, not by flashing up an obnoxious dialogue box and explaining it to their face. And yeah, when you make a game that's this harsh on tutorials, your players will probably have to Google a few things here and there, but honestly, I think that's completely fine. Even if you have to Google a few pieces of information, the vast majority of your experience is still going to be a marvelous adventure where you learn about the world around you and you feel like you've outsmarted the game every single time you find a secret or learn something about a new enemy. Wiki games are not for everyone. It can be a quite frustrating experience for some people, and there will be many times where you have literally no idea where you are or no idea what's going on. And that's fine, because if you don't like this style of game, then feel free to avoid it. But I think that going too far in the other direction is a bad thing for a game. A developer over-explaining every single mechanic in the game to the player can feel patronizing. And when a player feels patronized, the first thing they do is switch off. Thanks for watching.